must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Good morning to you. Thank you so much for finding time to be with us. It's just a few minutes, about 7 minutes past 10 a.m. here in Nairobi, East African time. My name is Miriam Ogotu. The show is Good Morning Africa. And of course, I'll take us through the news-making headlines this morning. But before I get into the Kenyan papers, let me just bring us up to date with what is happening elsewhere in Africa. And we look at some newspapers from Nigeria and the Punch newspaper. The main headline, NMA, health workers differ as federal government plans ban on unvaccinated workers. And then the Guardian, still from Nigeria, APC, PDP in flurry of activities to decide critical Congress. And then we go to Tanzania, and Nyerere's legacy lives on. We know today the country in Tanzania is marking 22 years after the death of Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, and that is a conversation that Doctor shall be leading us at around 3 p.m. East African time, but that is what we see on the headline on the Daily News. And fresh move to bridge skills gaps across East Africa. That is the Citizen newspaper from Tanzania. And then the Daily News, Magaya Supreme Court appeal fails. I think these are papers from Uganda. And then the Chronicle, still from Uganda, not from Zimbabwe, land, homes and bank for people with disabilities. And then we go to Uganda now, and the new vision, over 20,000 private schools in distress, and the Daily Monitor, where government is failing to meet COVID jab targets. So that is what we have in some of our regional newspaper. And now let's just turn our attention to the main papers we have in the country this morning. And the Star newspaper, the main headline, Raila, how I will roll out 6,000 Kenya shillings to 8 million people. It involves a 25% budget cuts and savings from graft proceeds. The story is on page 6 of the Star newspaper. And then game of deficit, adventures of a young magistrate, J.B. Muturi. The story is on page 14-15 of the Star newspaper. And the main pictorial on the Star newspaper, top Olympic athletes life cruelly snuffed out. Agnes Tirop celebrates after winning. That is the caption on that photo. In women's 5,000 meters during the IAF Diamond League competition on May 30th, 2019 in Stockholm. And then the husband is there. All right, so kick out the DPP for snail space and gross misconduct, says Cohens. The story is on page 4 and 5 of the Star newspaper. And Kenya faces tough decisions on fuel taxes and IMF rules on COVID. The story is on page 11 of the Star newspaper. We turn our attention now to the Daily Nation. The main headline, murder of a champ. And we see her picture there, Agnes Jebet Tirop, as she poses with the Adizero Adios Pro 1 shoe after winning the Adizero Road to Records Women's 10 kilometers in 30 minutes at Addis Ababa's headquarters on September 12th. That is the same year in some city in Germany. She broke the world record by 29 seconds just a month ago, and she was found dead yesterday at her home. And then just down there, once beaten IEBC seeks to change law. The story is on page 6 of the Daily Nation. And just besides that, oil-rich section of sea given to Somalia, and we see there's been a major outrage, and that the story is on page 10 of the Daily Nation. And Raila back at Kamukunji declared declares third liberation. The story is on page 4. Alert as a serial killer escapes from custody. I do not understand how that happened. The story is on page 7 of the Daily Nation and 5 of the Standard newspaper. So that is what we have on the front pages of our leading newspapers this morning. I'd like to bring in my panelists, and I will start with Sharon Gitonga. Very good morning to you, Sharon, and thank you so much for finding time to be with us today.
Thank you very much, Miriam. A very good morning to you back at the headquarters in Nairobi, and to all our viewers watching us across Africa and the entire globe. It is a pleasure to be part of this morning show segment. Good morning.
All right, thank you so much. And I see Tawish is still struggling to connect. Once his connection has stabilized, I will definitely bring Tawish in a very short bit. And so Raila back at Kamukunji declaring third liberation. First of all, when I was watching this news item yesterday, and the huge crowd that had attended this meeting, of course, we know we are still in the middle of a pandemic, and there was no protocols being followed there to ensure people are safe. I thought to myself, why exactly do we have the night curfew, Sharon Gitonga?
Thank you very much, Miriam. And indeed, also, that was my biggest concern when you look at, the number of crowds. So many crowds that were there. It still brings out the question that I think we had the same discussion before as to why then do we still have the night curfew? Does it mean that the COVID only spreads at night, and whereas people are still allowed to hold rallies? I think there's also that aspect of I think it also captured my attention, and I think something needs to be done. If we have to move at this rate, then I think something needs to be done, because people are tending to violate. People are tending to violate the same, because now they look at even if I'm caught violating the rules, and there's nothing that the government is doing to ensure that it curbs these rallies. I mean, then anyone, I should have the right to travel even past the curfew hours. So I think that is a major concern, and it needs to be really addressed.
All right, thank you so much. Samuel Tawish, good morning.
Good morning to you, Miriam Mugutu. Good morning to my colleague panelist, Sharon Gitonga. And good morning to all our viewers watching the program in Kenya, Africa, and the rest of the world.
All right, so we've just started looking at what's making headlines on our newspapers this morning. And of course, yesterday, Raila was back at Kamukunji, and we saw the big crowd that attended that rally. And as I've said there before, we are still in the middle of a pandemic, and we saw some of these measures that have been put in place are not really, were not observed at all. We saw a lot of people without masks, there was no social distancing, and there are so many people that attended this rally. So I just asked a question to Sharon before. If this is the case, then why do you even have something like the night curfew? It should be left for the free fall if you really don't care that much.
Well, thank you so much, Miriam. I think this is an opinion that is shared by, I think, most Kenyans today. In fact, yesterday I saw some commentary being made by Kenyans, mainly on social media platforms. Those who are calling President, or rather challenging President Uhuru Kenyatta, that it's time maybe he opens up the country so that the ordinary people can continue with their normal businesses, day-to-day lives, activity. Because again, Miriam, when you look into how politicians have been exempted, because that is what it is when you see the political rallies, political gatherings that are being undertaken across the country. It begs the question, why is it that the ordinary people cannot quite get similar treatment from the government? In fact, some people are arguing that you get a person just running, say, for example, a wines and spirit or a bar. They're asked to close down at exactly maybe 9 p.m. Because of the COVID-19, because of the curfew that has been imposed by government to try and perhaps reduce the COVID-19 curve. But what purpose does it therefore serve if the politicians are allowed to go or carry on with the political gatherings or political activities in the country? Does it pose a similar risk, or is it that the COVID-19 fears such political gatherings or political rallies? I think this is a critical question, and a genuine one for that matter, that Kenyans are asking. And I think President Uhuru Kenyatta or the relevant ministry that is Dr. Fred Matiang'i, Minister for Interior, and this CS for Health, that is Mutahi Kagwe. They have to come out and make a clarification to that effect. If we are opening up the economy, let it be fully open so that everybody can go with their normal day-to-day activities. Because again, as it is like politicians are getting preferential treatment. And that is the opinion, that is the observation that most Kenyans actually share out here, Miriam.
All right. Thank you so much. So anyway, still on that story, let's look at it on page 4, what Raila said that has really started a conversation online on what he intends to do when he's elected the president after President Uhuru Kenyatta serves his term and goes home. Now, ODM party leader Raila Odinga yesterday suggested there has been a better moment for him to win the presidency like now, as he rallied supporters to register as voters. And Mr. Odinga defended his pledge of 6,000 Kenya shillings monthly for each poor household, explaining if elected president, he will increase the cash transfer by 100 billion Kenya shillings from the current 37 billion Kenya shillings to benefit 2 million people. So 6,000 Kenya shillings per household. When you heard that promise, I think the other day I heard it on news and I thought, come on now, that is not possible. But Raila seems to have thought this through. Do you think this is just another political gimmick, or there's a way this can even be a reality, Sharon Gitonga?
Thank you very much, Miriam. And for me, what I'm in a way for whatever that he wants to I've called it social welfare plan. I think somehow it's going to be possible once we seal all the loopholes of corruption. But I mentioned the question of how are we going to do it. I look at when you talk about corruption, how would we, it trickles down to tightening the systems of accountability and asset recovery, whereby we are not lenient to these people. And this money, once a culprit has been brought forward with an issue of corruption, then can we get the same amount of money or even a higher amount of money, then this money could go to households. And I think from the conversations, what maybe Kenyans really didn't really get is that the money is going to households and not particular individuals. But then I think there's also a need of emphasizing on the need of having, sort of a financial instrument and a legal regime that at the end of the day will be able to empower the youth by providing them not just the youth, but also the small to medium enterprises, that is the SMEs, to, with skills to build their future. So for me, I would say that I would call it a social welfare, a social welfare plan. And I think it has been applied in other countries, and it is timely and it is noble. We just need to figure out on, how are we going to implement it, and not the question of if it is right or wrong. Thank you.
Okay. All right. The question was not whether it is right or wrong, but is it something that is actually doable, Samuel Tawish, or this is just another political gimmick?
Miriam, to a large extent, I tend to agree with the submissions that have been made by Sharon Gitonga to this effect. And what I'm trying to say is that, Miriam, I agree that we should be asking ourselves whether it is a right thing or a wrong thing to do. And the question will be, what strategies or what plan is there, a solid one for that matter, to make sure that this is going to be a viable and a plan that is going to be implemented? If Raila Odinga has a clear master plan on how this is going to be achieved, because I have seen the estimate, that is the estimate of how much it will cost a taxpayer in a given financial year, that is, if it's going to go through, it is about 137 billion Kenya shillings in a financial year, Miriam. I think the people who are unsettled by this particular initiative or proposal by Raila Odinga to have a social welfare kitty, more so for the youth and for the vulnerable in the society, is because they have all along exploited this particular constituency of Kenyans or a group of Kenyans for political expediency. I mean, they have never wanted these people to be empowered in any way, because they know once they are empowered, once they get money in their pockets, they will not be in a position to misuse these vulnerable groups as they have been doing from time immemorial, Miriam. So I think it's a welcome move. It's a good conversation that Kenyans should have. That is it really time? You remember even when the government of President Uhuru Kenyatta or the government of Kenya came out with the elderly social welfare for the elderly. I mean, the monies that the elder people and the widows and the widowers are given monthly. I mean, people were asking how these monies are going to, where are we going to get this money? But today, I can tell you for sure that our older people, the widowers and the widows in the country today are smiling, because by the end of the day, they are getting at least something that can keep them going, looking into the hard economic times that we're experiencing. The same thing with free primary and secondary education. Kenyans were asking, this looks like a very giant program, a very big program for that matter. How is it going to be implemented? Where are we going to get the money? But how many years down the line, we've seen the same being implemented? Our kids can go to school comfortably in primary and in secondary schools. Miriam, I can tell you for sure, as long as you have a clear master plan on how this is going to be achievable, nothing is impossible. The only thing is that I hope this is not done for the purpose of hoodwinking voters so that they can vote for Raila Odinga or any coalition that they will be making. But the most important thing is that they're doing this for the greater interest of the people of Kenya, most of the vulnerable groups, the youth who are unemployed. I can tell you for sure this is a very good master plan, an initiative that Kenyans must actually support. They have to look into it, they have to interrogate and see how the same is going to be implemented once Raila Odinga becomes the president next year. Thank you, Miriam.
Okay, and maybe even the 2 billion Kenya shillings that President Uhuru Kenyatta said is being lost every day to corruption. If we were able to recover this money and put it up, I think for a month, we might have enough cash, because Raila says he intends to use the money that is being recovered from corruption and perhaps blocking all other loopholes to ensure that this becomes a reality. Both of you seems to be very optimistic with this idea. I think I will just wait to see how this will work out for me. Okay. Now, there's also another story on the front pages of the Daily Nation. Once bitten, IEBC seeks to change law. The Electoral Commission has lined up at least 20 changes it wants affected to the law for smooth polls next year, in the hope that it will avoid the costly mistakes that led to nullification of the 2017 presidential election. The proposals on changes to the Elections Act were submitted to the Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs by IEBC boss Wafula Chebukati on Tuesday, with an appeal that the amendments be effected before the end of the year to give the agency ample time to plan before the August vote. So the story is on page 6 of the Daily Nation. So let's see what Chebukati is seeking to do and some of the changes he wants effected. Now, the Commission is seeking to amend Section 44 of the Act to provide for a complementary mechanism for the transmission of presidential results, a key area that was the subject of heated debate during the 2017 presidential election petition filed by ODM leader Raila Odinga. The amendment gives the Commission power to put in place alternative mechanisms of transmitting presidential results in parts of the country that have poor internet connectivity. In the event that the KIEMS kit cannot be prepared or replaced, the Commission wants the presiding officer to document the incident in the polling station diary, which will then be signed by all the presidential candidates' agents. The presiding officer will then proceed to deliver the hard copy Form 34A and the polling station diary to the constituency returning officer. The Commission will then have to publicize through electronic or print media of national circulation or any other accessible medium the failure of transmission from the polling station. The Supreme Court, while nullifying President Kenyatta's August 8, 2017 election win, found that the Commission had committed irregularities in the transmission of results. So I think it's quite self-explanatory, but will this help solve the issue, especially when it comes to the transmission of results? Because a lot of times we've heard from the polling stations, the results were different from the ones that were actually given to the final, that were finally transmitted to the IEBC or to the, the general tallying there. So will this help, or will this also cause, perhaps jitters or mistrust, as we've seen in the past, when there's a reason why that commission had suggested that Kenya, we have an electronic transmission of these results, but there are cases we know, places we know in this country that we do have indeed poor network, and that was a problem in the other elections. But with the mistrust we already have in our political arena, Sharon Gitonga, is this the right way to go about it?
Thank you very much, Miriam. And indeed, network is key when it comes to transmission. Transmission of efficient transmission of results. But however, I think IEBC is trying to jump way too far, without having sealed these small loopholes that we've been talking about every day. From the issue of, have people been sensitized enough to know the reason? Because at the end of the day, we might have all these systems, but who are these people who are going to vote? So I think there's also an issue of let them not jump way too far without sealing the loopholes that is, the big elephant in the room, if I would call it. Have people been sensitized enough? You've seen there's a very, very low turnout. So clearly, I think there's quite so much that needs to be done even before, we start looking at the issue of transmission.
Okay. Tawish?
Miriam?
Yes.
Miriam, I tend to agree with Sharon, but what I want to add, Miriam, will be that unless IEBC is deliberately designing the system to fail, like they did in 2017, that is why they want to give us so many alternatives or options as regards to electronic tallying of results, of the results. More so, I think where the problem normally comes in is the presidential results. Miriam, it is not possible that you can tell us you can go and carry out a census exercise in these areas that you say there's no network. You can go and register voters in that particular place. You can go and facilitate the IEBC officials to go and carry out the exercise in terms of people monitoring people voting in those particular areas. But the problem only comes in transmitting of those results. How come that it's so difficult for us to invest in a foolproof system that will make sure that we are able to transmit these results? Because we understand that these are part of the reasons why we have been having problems with the elections, more so when it comes to presidential elections and results. So I think it is a very big challenge on the part of IEBC and other stakeholders, that is including the CA, to come out, the Communication Authority, to come out with a clear roadmap upon which they are going to make sure that areas that do not have network coverage or sufficient network coverage, how are they going to deal with that situation? Because again, we do not want any loopholes that are going to be created for votes to be stolen or for results to be compromised because we resorted to, say, manual transmission of results instead of the electronic. If we are carrying out electronic and we have mapped out areas that we have had challenges in the past, how come that we cannot invest in those areas? How much is it? How much will we need to invest in those areas so that we have, a foolproof system so that they can be, they can go hand in hand with other places in the country. Because Miriam, you remember when President Uhuru Kenyatta came into power, we had very low percentage in terms of road connectivity in this country. But as we speak today, so many places have been opened up thanks to Jubilee administration. They have been able to construct so many roads in the country, and today we are proud of that. There are so many areas that did not have electricity. How come that the government has been able to have electricity in those areas, including remote villages like mine in Kilgoris, Loibor Soito? Then how come then you want to tell us that when it comes to transmission of results, that we cannot just invest in having, say for example, something that can boost network connectivity in Kilgoris, or say in Busia, or say in Moyale? I think this is something that IEBC and maybe those they are working with are trying to deliberately design so that the system fails and they will have the same as an excuse as to why the results of elections were compromised. I think we have time to work on that. Even if it's about postponing election, let us have a foolproof system. But I suppose, Miriam, electronic tallying and the dissemination of these results will be the best one for Kenyans. Thank you, Miriam.
And Chilo?
Miriam,
yes.
Yeah, something on to what Tawish has talked about. I think for IEBC, it's sort of like an indirect indication that we are not ready for this election.
Yes.
Because I don't understand why, why do we keep on, talking about the same things that were as a result of a failure towards the last election. Yet we had a period of, a whole 4 years to work on these loopholes. So I think there's a problem, and it's very clear. It could be like an indirect.
Maybe IEBC perhaps might have learned from before, and they're just trying to be proactive. No.
but they're trying to be proactive at the wrong time. They had enough time, and this is the result of, when you fail to plan, when you plan to fail as a result of, they had enough time, they didn't plan. So clearly, I don't know. For me, I think it's very clear that we are not ready for these coming elections, because when we have all these problems coming up at this time, maybe we need to reconsider and probably push the elections towards at a later date.
Okay. Now the
in any case, Miriam, if I may just have 30 seconds to add on that, we should ask ourselves, how did we get to where we are today? Why did we resort into electronic voter register or electronic vote tallying and all those kinds of things? It's because the manual way or the other alternatives did not work. And I think they were part of the reasons as to why we've had problems in the past elections. That is why Kenyans, in their good reasoning, in their good wisdom, they thought having electronic tallying of votes, having electronic voter register and all those kinds of things are actually compacted together will make it difficult for these elections or its results to be compromised. So taking us back to where we've come from, I think this is not something that is acceptable, Miriam.
Okay, now it gets a bit interesting. Now listen to this. The Commission also wants Section 39 of the Act amended to ensure electronic figures transmitted from the polling station correspond with those delivered physically to the returning officer. So what are you telling us? They did not correspond before. I mean, this is what we expected that is happening. The results that are being taken physically correspond with those of from the electronic transmission, but apparently not. Now, the Commission wants Section 39(2), subsection 2 and subsection 3 deleted, as they were declared unconstitutional by the Court of Appeal in the Maina Kiai case of 2017. Subsection 2 provides that before determining and declaring the final results of a presidential election, the Commission may announce the provisional results, while subsection 3 had obligated the Commission to announce the provisional and final results in order in which the tallying to the results is completed. However, the appellate court adjudged that the results announced at the constituency by the returning officer were final and nullified the two provisions, whereas Section 39, subsection 1D, bound the chairman of the Commission to declare the results of the election of the president in accordance with the Constitution. The Commission wants this section deleted and replaced with one that reads, "The Commission shall verify that results transmitted and the physical submitted results are accurate record of the results tallied, verified and declared at the respective polling stations." Okay, Samuel Tawish, did you understand anything there? Chebukati is seeking to change that constitution.
Miriam, any election that is free, fair, and credible is one which must be verifiable. And I think regardless which way IEBC wants these things to be done, whether they want some amendments to the election acts, the most important thing by the end of the day is that Kenyans are able to get what they deserve in terms of their will that they have expressed at the ballot, that the same is not going to be compromised by individuals in the chain of IEBC. Because again, I largely agree with the courts that should be the way. That results as declared at the constituency level, say for example for parliamentary candidates or even for the Senate, for governors, and the same for president. If for example you come from a constituency like Kasarani and they've declared maybe say William Ruto has got 10,000 votes from that particular region, I think the same must be reflected at the National Tallying Center when the results are being declared. Why is it that we have changes along the way? What happens along the way? And the most important thing also, Miriam, that we should actually stress is who are these people in between? Who are the people in between who normally or usually manipulate the results in favor or against candidates when it comes to these presidential elections? Because you are at the constituency tallying center, election results have been announced, and you get this person has gotten these votes, the other one has gotten these votes, but when they get to the national tallying center, things become different. This other candidate has lost votes or the other one has been added. There's a big compromise that is being added. Such that is being done, Miriam. Such are things that make Kenyans become discouraged. They make Kenyans lose trust and confidence in IEBC. I mean, they should come out because nobody else handles these results or even these ballots apart from IEBC itself. So who is it along the way between the constituency tallying center and the national tallying center that compromises these particular results? So I think this is something that must be looked into. But I agree with the courts that the best way forward will be the results that are declared at the constituency level, because then you have all the agents for all the candidates sitting there. Once you declare these results at that particular place, they are the same results that should be reflected or should be reflecting at the National Tallying Center. I submit, Miriam.
And all along we thought that is what was happening, but apparently not. Now, the Commission also seeks to amend Section 36 to give itself the power to ensure that the two-thirds gender rule is achieved through political party primaries. In a matter filed by the Katiba Institute, whose judgment was issued in April 2017, the court directed the Commission to develop administrative mechanisms to ensure that the gender rule was achieved through political party primaries. And I think this is a very controversial conversation that even right now, as we speak, if you were to go with the spirit of our Constitution, Parliament is illegally constituted, and I think the former CJ Maraga also stated that very clearly when he wrote to President Uhuru Kenyatta asking him to dissolve Parliament, but we know that was another matter altogether. But the Commission now seeks to amend this section to give itself the power to ensure that the two-thirds gender rule is achieved through political party primaries. Does IEBC has mechanisms that will allow it to implement this part of the requirement of the Constitution, or this is an overstretch on IEBC's part? Sharon Gitonga.
Thank you very much, Miriam. And just to allude to what you've just said, that it's very clear. I don't think IEBC has even them. Is it even their mandate is that even in their mandate to alter with the Constitution? I don't know. Maybe you can enlighten me more with that. And then going back to the issue that Awish was talking about, I think Chebukati should also be called out, because why is it that we are finding out now that there are people that alter, with the voters and have not been called out yet? Because if we don't address this issue, then it's as a result of we're going to be doing the same things and expecting the same results. So I think it's high time that if he knows the people, he should actually call them out.
Okay. Tawish, IEBC is seeking to be given power to ensure that the two-thirds gender rule is achieved through political party primaries. Is this an overstretch on IEBC's part, or if this is a way it can actually implement this?
Miriam, it could be a broader intention really to make sure that this is being achieved, but I don't think that it should be the sole responsibility of IEBC. This is something that is a challenge to political parties to come out and map way forward on how this is going to be achieved. They have to work hand in hand with the IEBC, but saying that it is IEBC which should have the sole mandate to determine, of course, the two-third gender rule or whichever, I don't think, because it is not easy. How do they expect really to implement this? I think IEBC has so much in their plate. They have to first of all deal with the responsibility that Kenyans have given unto them, instead of them asking for more and more responsibility. Because I'm sure the more they ask for these responsibilities, then the more they will be asking for added funding in as far as IEBC activities are concerned. So they should not concentrate on getting more responsibilities, that which they are not even essential to them, that which they are not even supposed to be taking care. Because by the end of the day, their concern should be how they are going to carry out elections in this country and make sure that they do the same, that is credible, fair, and free. Miriam, I think they should not be asking for more burden. They already have so much in their plate.
Okay, and also another amendment is to Section 74 of the Settlement of Electoral Disputes after the political party primaries. The Commission argues that there is no consistency on when a dispute is to be lodged and when it is to be determined. The Commission wants this amended so that the dispute arising from political party nominations are lodged within 24 hours of the last gazetted day of registration of candidates for elections, so that the Commission can have clear mechanisms to hear and determine the disputes. So these are disputes that arise from political parties' primaries, and now IEBC is proposing. Apparently, there's not been a time time frame to listen to some of these disputes arising from the political parties' primaries. So IEBC suggesting that if 24 hours should be the time frame. If at all there are issues, then you should raise them after that candidate has been declared, the candidate by the party, and you feel that you were, the primaries are not done well, so you lodge the appeal in 24 hours to challenge that. And so IEBC, I don't know if the commission will be involved in listening to some of these things. Should that be left to the parties to figure that out, or, IEBC needs to be involved in that? Sharon. Tawish.
Miriam, today I'm a bit shocked because IEBC seems to be coming up with so many proposals, but I've not seen one which really seeks to guarantee Kenyans a free, fair, and credible election. Only that they are asking for more responsibility. They're asking to get involved in so many other activities that should otherwise be left to the register of political parties, or the one which should be left to the political parties themselves. Mm-hmm. But it is good as stakeholders, as people who oversee this exercise, that also they are brought on board. Something that worries me, and I'm very skeptical, is the fact that they want, of course it's good to have a time frame, because when you want to adjudicate on a matter, it is not good that you're just playing like in an unmarked field, that you do not know where are you going to score. Mm-hmm. So in terms of time frame, that is something I largely agree with, that we should actually have a time frame within which such kind of matters should be dispensed. But again, 24 hours, according to my own estimation, Miriam, I don't think it is sufficient time for anything substantial really to be made. So I think we should, yes, have a time frame, but not within 24 hours, I submit.
And should the IEBC the one involved in listening to this dispute, so IEBC should just concentrate on, just preparing for the elections? Should it be hearing the squabbles and the messiness that comes from political parties?
Well, an argument could be that because they are part and parcel of these processes, they are the stakeholders, you cannot wish away IEBC, but I do not think they are the primary players in as far as solving these disputes are concerned. I mean, we have other mechanisms, we have other institutions like the register of political parties. We also have that other, is it dispute resolution something also in this very country, in as far as any matters that arise, say, for example, in election or nominations, that can be taken to that tribunal to be resolved. And these are stakeholders that perhaps should, because they do not have so much as you will compare with the IEBC. As we speak today, IEBC is grappling with so many other things. Mm-hmm. They are grappling with so many other challenges. They are not even sure if they are going to conduct this election. They are not even very sure if they have the capacity. They are not very sure if facilitation and the money is required for the exercise ahead of them is there, but they are asking for more responsibility and to get involved what would otherwise be dealt with other stakeholders and other institutions. So I do not necessarily think that it is in good thinking that IEBC should get involved in such kind of dispute resolution exercises, Miriam.
All right, thank you so much. And that reminds me of a situation we saw play out in 2017 at Jubilee headquarters when I think Millicent Omanga felt she was cheated out of her win for the Nairobi women's ticket. I don't know if she was running as a senator or something like that. I can't remember very well, but you remember, the fracas that was out there, and they came with their supporters. So imagine IEBC, Oko Anniversary Towers, is thinking about, do we have enough 3G internet coverage? Do we have enough kids? And then you have politicians who were aggrieved coming with their supporters down there chanting, because they don't usually just come by themselves. So I don't think IEBC should be dealing with this, in my own opinion, but what do I know? All right, Sharon Gitonga, are you there? Can you hear? Can you hear us?
Thank you, Miriam. I think at some point I keep audio in what is it called? It pauses. That's why I'm not able to get. Yeah, but maybe if I can sum it up from what I've gotten from what Tawish has been talking about, is I think IEBC is, it has already too much on their plate, and they're not able, it's clear that they're not able to consume. So I think the matter should be left to bodies such as, the Registrar of political parties to solve them amicably. And for them, they already have enough that we've not, there's an issue of trust and confidence when it comes to them. So I think maybe first they should it should deal with what is at hand, then but leave other matters to the relevant bodies to run them.
All right, thank you so much. So that is that. With that, I don't know if some of these proposals, if at all they will sail through, but that is a law that has been brought to Parliament, that some of the changes on electoral laws that IEBC seeks to be affected. So that is a story, of course, that we shall be following for you. So there's a puzzle of how a serial killer escaped police custody. Police were last evening unable to explain how a man who confessed to killing 13 people after sexually molesting them and drinking their blood escaped from custody just hours before he was to be charged in court. Mastin Wanjala, who was arrested in July after a 5-year killing spree, escaped from his cell at Njogoo Road Police Station on Tuesday night without breaking any window or door. He had been remanded at the station for 30 days pending a court appearance yesterday morning to answer to murder charges. However, during the 6 a.m. mandatory roll call for all people being held in the cells, the duty officer discovered Mr. Wanjala was missing. The window to his cell was not broken and neither was the door, which can only be locked or opened from the outside. The cells at police stations are located behind the reporting desk, meaning no one can enter or leave without the duty officer noticing. Yesterday, Directorate of Criminal Investigations, DCI boss George Kinoti, ordered that 3 police officers who were on duty at the time be detained. The nation understands that Mr. Wanjala was not being held in solitary confinement and that there were other people with him in the cell. The station has to.
There's laxity and negligence in when it comes to law enforcement. And when I look at when the issue of Wanjala is that they are saying that there is no door that was broken, or we are not told that he broke a ceiling for him to, but rather he walked out of the gate. And I was actually reading somewhere that there were 10 officers, so clearly he did not attract the attention of these 10 officers. I think the issue of laxity and negligence, and it's very dangerous when this person is out here and looking at even this person he actually proclaimed himself that he has killed I think over 13 children. So what will happen, the mob, people are so angry out here, he's going to be killed the moment he's seen looming any street here. So I think it's high time the police the heads need to start rolling, and let's see police redeeming themselves to ensure that this person is arraigned back to the cells within no time. And also we also need to get the police that were in charge also need to be questioned on that matter.
Okay, thank you. Samuel Tawi, for all the people who could have possibly, escaped from the prison, it will be Wanjala, a serial killer, who is out here on the loose. What do you think happened?
Miriam, this is no ordinary matter. This is not an ordinary, of course, suspect we are talking about. It is about a serial killer, as you have put it. And Miriam, unlike what Sharon has said, that this is maybe negligence on the part of police, I believe, on the contrary, that this is something that was done deliberately, because there are only 2 possible scenarios. Either this man by the name Wanjala has been killed by the police. That is one possible scenario. Or another scenario is that this guy was just left to go scot-free by the same police who are guarding that, or the security personnel who are guarding that particular cell. Because Miriam, I'm not very sure if you've ever been to any of this into any of these police cells. They are one of those places that are highly guarded. Even for you to just get access, leave alone even going to the cell, to any police station, just to get access and get into the to the reporting desk. For you to get in there and leave at will, I do not think that is something that we should be discussing. This is something that individuals, rogue officers, have just colluded with this particular criminal. Either he's been left to go, or he's been killed by the police. Those are the only 2 possible scenarios. I do not think that this guy just had a chance to, if I should put it, because when you look into how those places are meticulously guarded, Miriam. Even if you are just to take food for a person who is in those cells, it is not something that is very easy. You have to go through a rigorous process before the same is accepted, or before you can access these particular individuals in those cells. So I don't think that this is something that was just done accidentally, or it is something that maybe this guy had a chance. There's no chance completely for him to have really run away without the police noticing. So I think the people, like Sharon has said, the people who are on duty, the security personnel who are on duty, I think they should be behind bars, and even they should be prosecuted. And if necessary, they should even lose their jobs, because I think they're colluding with these criminals to try and defeat the chain of justice. Okay. I submit, Miriam.
All right, thank you.
Miriam, just a quick one. Yeah, I think is it a coincidence that he actually he escaped from the prison a day to, I think, his trial. Yes. And then I think there's also an issue that was the police said that there was an issue of, I think, power outage for over 5 hours. And then it leaves me wondering what happened to, generators, a whole prison cell. I don't know. For me, there's also the question of, most likely, this was a well-orchestrated plan with the police, because you cannot walk out just majestically out of a gate that and not attract attention of 10 officers. These people are a joke. I think they should, be behind bars as we speak.
Which ones? The police officers who were in charge during that time that this happened?
Yes.
Okay, it was police.
Miriam, for your information, police cells are places that are highly guarded. For you, even when you are in there, for you to go out even for, say, for a call of nature, those are locked throughout. For you to go out for a call of nature, the officers have to come and escort you and bring you back and lock the door from outside. Whatever kind of things they're trying to, I think they're just trying to joke with the Kenyans. There's nothing of such can be possible in this stadium unless it is a well-orchestrated plan.
And why would they do that? They know this is a case that had a lot of national interest. Why would anybody...
That's why I've told you, that's why I'm telling you there are likely two possible scenarios. Either the guy was killed long time ago and the police cannot account for the same. They have decided to give an excuse that the guy ran away. It is also possible. You just wait and see how this news is going to pan out. It is also possible that they orchestrated by design this guy to just leave the cells because they may be not having sufficient evidence to be able to nail this particular culprit. So those are
but he confessed to have killed, and in fact he took the police officers to areas where some victims were found. So he confessed. So actually they have proof that he did it, but had not thought about the issue of perhaps he could be missing, as in dead. Well, allegedly, we're not saying that is the case.
You may find that the body is floating in somewhere as rivers. You just wait and see how this news is going to pan out. Maybe the guy was killed a long time ago. And Sharon has posed a very good question. Is it just a coincidence that he escaped from the prison when he was just about to be presented to court? That is not possible, Miriam.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's even scary now. Okay. So there's also another story that I think has been on the headlines.
In Bomet, in Rift Valley, and just to identify with what the Kalenjin nation is singing. And that is why you see he's decided to go back home. Because, as it has been the tradition, our politics have always remained tribal. And Sossion is just being realistic enough by going back and saying, if I have to be elected, because again, he cannot continually rely on being nominated. That is left to the courtesy of political parties or even political leaders to be able to nominate you for any position after the election. So what are the chances that once you got elected the last time for the last 5 years, that you'll get yet another chance to be nominated? There are so many other interest groups that will otherwise want this particular chance. So for Sossion, he knows very well that going back to his constituency or county of Bomet to contest, say, on an ODM ticket, it is almost difficult or impossible for him to maybe get elected on an ODM ticket. You understand that that is a hostile ground to ODM. Isaac Ruto, the former governor for Bomet, you understand, he did ditch Jubilee and join hands with Raila Odinga in the run-up to 2017 general election. And he lost his gubernatorial seat. He could not defend it much as he was vying on his CCM ticket. The late Laboso had to trounce Isaac Ruto. In itself, it tells you that politics have largely remained really tribal. That is why you see the likes of, who is this that was the Secretary General of Jubilee Party in 2013 to 2017. The one who went back to contest, I think, was it a parliamentary or something, and then he ended up being Onyango Olo. He ended up becoming the Speaker of the Kisumu County Assembly. He had to go back and identify with ODM. He had to go back and identify with the party that so many people are really identifying with on the ground. So I think Sossion is just being realistic enough, just like Isaac Mwaura did last time. You remember, he was nominated by ODM, but when he wanted to vie for a seat in his backyard, that is in Kiambu County, specifically in Ruiru, he had to go back to Jubilee because he knows that is a stronghold of Jubilee. So I think that is the reality that is our politics, that they have largely remained tribal, and that is what we are actually what we have to contend with. And I do not blame Sossion for doing that. That is why he ended up going to Baba and telling him, look, if I want to get elected, I have to go back to this Chama. But I'm very sure once he gets elected, maybe he'll have to switch allegiance again, because politics and getting elected, whatever it is, it's more of my interest. And if your interests are being served well through a political party or through a certain individual, then that is where the wind will blow you to. Miriam, I submit.
Okay. Sharon, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, I think Sossion maybe should have first consulted from the likes of Bishop Margaret and Isaac Mwaura, or rather to even find out how they are doing now. But I think he may not really get enough political relevance, and I don't think this was a very good move, considering that as we speak, he does not have a job at Kenyan. At NAT. So, but, as Sawish said, politics is about interest. Let's see how this turns out. But from where I sit, I don't think that was a very good move.
And why would you have wanted him to, perhaps talk to Bishop Margaret Ranjiro, maybe Shebesh and Isaac Mwaura? Is there some lessons that perhaps Sossion could have picked up from this? Or why did you suggest that?
No, because I think even Isaac Mwaura and the likes followed the same trail, and we from where I sit, I don't think they are really doing well. Because for me, I believe ODM has quite enough influence, and if he really stuck with the party, it would have given him more relevance as opposed to the party that he has moved to. That's just my 2 cents.
All right, thank you. I hear you, Sharon. Thank you.
Miriam, in the last general election, 2017 or 2013, I remember the likes of Henry Kosgei, you remember, who was a staunch ODM supporter, and he was a very big follower of Raila Odinga, he comes from the Rift Valley, Nandi County to be specific. He chose to stick with Raila Odinga, but when he contested, he had to lose because the ground was singing Jubilee by then, because by virtue of Deputy President William Ruto's wave in that particular region. The likes of Franklin Betty, you remember, he was running for, I think, Senate, if I'm not very wrong, for Kericho County. He lost because he was running on an ODM ticket. So there's reality, honestly, when it comes to political parties, and of course, the say that they have when it comes to the regions. And that is why you see our politics has become more of, have been balkanized to a point that when you do not sing maybe a tune of a particular party in a certain region, you're likely going to be trounced. And I think that is what has informed Sosion's move. But to be honest, Miriam, if Sossion was to vie on an ODM ticket in Bomet County, I can quite tell you that he would have lost. I'm not very sure if he's going to win on, say, on an UDA party. I'm not very sure because, again, he has to battle for the nomination ticket with Cleophas Langat, if I'm not very wrong, the current senator. Because I'm reliably informed, Sossion will be contesting for a senatorial seat. He wants to do the same through, of course, a UDA ticket. And we have, of course, a person who is in that seat, the incumbent as we speak today, who is also a staunch supporter of William Ruto. How they're going to balance the two remains a wait-and-see scenario.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And now let's turn to a story that I said has been on the headlines for a while now, but we've not had an opportunity to talk about it, and I think it's very important. On page 4 of the Star newspaper, kick out the DPP for gross misconduct, snail pace. Cohens. Now, the family of murder tycoon Tob Cohen wants Director of Public Prosecutions Nudin Haji removed from office for gross misconduct and abuse of office. It accuses him of moving at a snail's pace and mishandling the murder case in which widow Sarah Cohen is charged. Through Tob Cohen's sister, Gabrielle Van Straten, the family has petitioned the Public Service Commission to kick out Haji barely for years after he took over through lawyers Dunstan Omari and Cliff Ombeta. Stratton has accused the DPP of bungling the case of her brother's murder. The widow, Sarah Wairimu Cohen, has been charged with murder but denies the charge. The trial has not started. Cohen was missing for 2 months in 2019 before the body was found in September in an empty water tank at the family home. To support her case, Stratton cited other cases she claims the DPP has mishandled, including the KEMSA scandal of procurement of COVID-19 supplies. Haji on Wednesday dismissed the petition and said he has done nothing wrong. The petition is malicious and designed to coerce me to make decisions based on certain individuals' perception of the law and justice. I'm ready to face the Public Service Commission and will give my detailed response to them, Haji says. And we saw another news item, was it maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, I'm not sure, about the latest investigations in regards to that story by the DCI. And of course, it was brought up during that story that the DPP had, had closed that case, but I think he was open. If at all new, evidences will be brought up, then he will continue something like that. But there seems to be a tussle at Wish between the DPP and the DCI, and what will this mean, if at all is the case, when it comes to the fight against corruption and other things that they should be working on together?
Let me pick from where you've left, Miriam, that there seems to be a tussle or a fight between also the DCI and the DPP. This is, I think, to a large extent true, because we're not seeing the synergy that these, of course, officers have been working in the past, or even the two guys who are leading these particular institutions, that is Nordin Haji and the DCI Kinoti. The kind of the mutual working relationship in terms of how they've been able to do things previously, you cannot be said of the same currently. So, Miriam, it points to the fact that maybe there's something wrong, that probably there's one which is not doing the right thing. And if they do that, I think by the end of the day, we'll be compromising when it comes to Kenyans getting services, and especially on the justice front. Miriam, they usually say justice delayed is justice denied. And I think the more matters of criminality or any matters are being delayed, such as the ones you have mentioned, say, for example, the death of Cohen, it's very, very unfortunate. May his soul rest in eternal peace, Miriam. That up to this moment, I think it is running, is it almost 2 years, if I'm not very wrong, ever since Cohen died and his body was found in a septic tank. It's very unfortunate that to date we have not been able to really hold anyone account. When we even had people that everyone was almost pointing fingers as the main suspects, and even all of them are walking scot-free. This is something that's very unfortunate. It raises suspicion, Miriam, and it justifies the perception by Kenyans that indeed there are people who work as cartels to compromise the will of justice in this country. Because I cannot understand as we speak today how nobody has been nailed, nobody has been put behind bars in as far as the death of Cohen is concerned. By the end of the day, the family and the kin of Cohen, the late Cohen, will want justice, and so is Wairimu, because she may as well be wrongfully accused of having killed the husband, which may not necessarily be the case unless the same is proved in a court of law. So when you look into all these things, you give so much time and so much room for speculation. And today, even if Wairimu is walking in the streets of Nairobi, everyone will be pointing fingers. And I'm very sure she will not even be comfortable walking in the streets of Nairobi, even in her hometown, is it in Nyeri? She may not be comfortable going back home because people will always point at her and say, look at her. There will be whispers, this is the lady who killed the husband. So if if this matter had been brought to a logical conclusion, maybe, who knows, she could have been exonerated. Maybe she would have not been found guilty of having killed the husband. So these are things that needs to be expedited. Mm-hmm. It's a very big challenge that our justice system in Kenya is actually experiencing. And if they can handle that, then I think Kenyans will be very happy. But as it is now, it's quite frightening. It's quite discouraging. that we continue to see delayed dispensation of cases, and Kenyans have nothing really to smile about, even with the coming in of the new Chief Justice Martha Koome, because we thought maybe these are some of the matters she's going to address as a matter of priority. I submit.
Okay, thank you. Now, in her petition, Stratton alleges that the DPP has been interfering with the criminal investigations by the DCI, especially in the Cohen murder case. Such a directive from the DPP does not serve the best interests of the justice for the victims of the late Top Cohen, nor does it serve the greater public good, and more so, it is an evasion of the freedom and independence of the office of the DCI. Now they're speaking even for the DCI at this point, who is lawfully empowered to detect crime, investigate it, and bring the perpetrators to face the consequences of their actions. She said that is the sister of Top Cohen. Now, she argues that because of the actions of the DPP interfering with criminal investigations by the Director of Criminal Investigations, George Kinoti, unrest and uncertainty are taking center stage during the conduct of investigations. She further claims that Justice Sankale Ole Kantai was apparently overheard bragging about the DPP's inaction of not approving the charges. He has since been exonerated by the DPP. As such, it is now becoming a norm amongst highly connected suspects that they tend to boast that criminal accusations against them will never see the light of day, as the Director of Public Prosecutions is undoubtedly a deeply compromised public officer. I mean, these are allegations and claims you do not want to hear being leveled on the person of the Director of Public Prosecutions, understanding very well the importance of this institution when it comes to the justice system. Sharon Gitonga.
Thank you very much, Miriam and Tawish, for your sentiment. And for me, I'd love to just say, I think this is an issue of this clearly troubling paradise, because these are people that have previously, worked together, very well. But I think from what I see, there's an issue of sabotage from one, either DCI or, DPP. And for you realize that for any case to succeed, it needs a concerted effort, from both parties, either the DPP or DCI. So in an event where, the DCI doesn't do a good job, then, the DPP won't function, and the vice versa. But, I have an issue with the petition that was, being filed by the lawyers. And from where I sit, I am not really so confident on what will transpire, because from the findings that I saw, I think they were trying to present the petition to the media as opposed to the Public Service Commission, which should be the case. So I think removing the DPP would not really be an option, but maybe having a higher authority to come in and try and put the house in order, even if it means, the president coming in. But, filing a petition to remove him, I don't really think would be the solution at the long end.
Okay. So these are just some of the cases that have strained DCI and the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions relations. The first one is the unconditional release of KPA boss Daniel Manduku on March 2nd, 2020, and we saw how that played out in public. Malindi Member of Parliament Aisha Jumwa NGCDF case struck at the ODPP, it's still stuck there, and case of alleged embezzlement at Masai Mara University. We saw that it was in public view, and I think it has not gone anywhere. So the DPP is also accused of stalling that case. Extortion case against blogger Cyprian Nyakundi. Kenya Pipeline Corporation Mombasa case. Shooting of former Garissa CEC Idris Mukhtar. Allegations of fraudulent transfer of shares at Tatu City. Recommendations to charge Nyahururu Magistrate Ocharo Mumanyi. These are just some of the cases that, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions has been accused of derailing. But I still want to understand, 2 years later, Samuel Tawish, as you said there earlier, Top Cohen was killed. 2 years later, the case has not even started.
Yes, Miriam, these matters of criminality or any matters that are being investigated is not like just an event. It's a kind of a process. And there are so many things that are involved before maybe one is nailed, or even before a case is brought to court. Because I'm very sure, just like you, Miriam, that for the Office of the DPP to be able to begin or any proceedings in court or to take any matter to court, they have to be fashioned with all the investigation details and file from the Office of the DCI. And if the same has not been done, then it becomes difficult, almost unattainable for the Office of the DPP really to be able to proceed with this case. I mean, the Office of the DPP largely relies on the Directorate of Criminal Investigation to be able to carry out these investigations and hand over the file to the Office of the DPP for prosecution to be able to be carried out. Because like you've seen in the past, I mean, the judiciary, the courts have been blaming the Office of the DPP that they have not been bringing watertight cases, or they have not done thorough investigation and did not have sufficient evidence that they argue. And by the end of the day, you get that these cases are defeated when they get to courts, but we end up blaming our judiciary. So I think this is something that involves a very big chain, an elaborate chain for that matter, and all the stakeholders have really to play their part. Be it the Office of the DCI, they have to carry out the investigation and hand over the file, at least in time, so that the Office of the DPP can have a chance to peruse and see whether the case is watertight for them to proceed to actually constitute charges or even constitute proceedings at the courts of law. So this is something that calls for a wider cooperation amongst all the relevant agencies that are involved in carrying out investigations and be able to confer charges to these particular individuals, Miriam. So I want to challenge the Office of the DCI, I want to challenge the Office of the DPP, that whoever is trying to compromise this, whoever is just doing deliberate things to make sure that maybe the quest for justice is being defeated, they are not doing justice, they are not being fair to Kenyans, because by the end of the day, they are getting salaries, they are getting well remuneration, they are getting all the privileges they are getting by virtue of the fact that Kenyans have given them the mandate, they have given them the responsibility which they have to carry in trust for Kenyans. And if they are doing this to frustrate any kind of this service delivery, then it's an unfortunate thing. Maybe we should get people who are ready to take up those jobs, people who are willing and ready to serve Kenyans in those capacities. Because again, these are proving to be very difficult. We are yet really to understand between the Office of the DCI and the Office of the DPP, who is it that is not doing the right thing. It's too early to really make a judgment that it's maybe the DPP or the DCI, Miriam.
Okay, at this point, these are just allegations, but the latest on this case, still on page 5 of the Star newspaper, the Tob Cohen murder case has taken a new twist that has exposed the deteriorating relationship between the DPP Nordin Haji and DCI George Kinoti. The Star has established that Haji has ordered the investigation of former Gigiri OCPD Richard Mugwai in relation to the murder. The details emerged just days after the DCI accused Haji of hiding crucial information that would implicate Court of Appeal Judge Sankale Ole Kantai in the killing. Haji wants the police to record a statement and vital information taken from Mugai to help fill gaps in the probe. At the heart of the latest move by the DPP is a letter written by Cohen dated July 12, 2019. In the letter to the DPP, Cohen complained that Mugai was collaborating with his then estranged wife Sarah Wairimu to kill him. Through his advocates, he told Haji that unless your offices act speedily and accordingly, our client will continue to suffer humiliation, discrimination, and persecution because he is not a Kenyan national, which is wrong, distasteful, and unfortunate. So Cohen, I think at that point, had started perhaps feeling some threats over his life. So he actually wrote, was it in July, before he was found dead in September, he wrote to the police to complain and to to raise these questions and to alert them of what was happening. But there seems to be, he wrote to the DPP, and nothing was done. So that is the latest. And we shall just, wait to see how this will pan out. And the DPP and the DCI, I think it's important that they work together. I think, they need each other. The DCI I think was sometimes back was looking for leeways in which they could take the cases directly to the court, but it's not possible. They do the investigations, they take them to the office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. He's the one who comes to court to prosecute some of these cases. So they have to work together. Samuel Tawish, for the interest, of Kenyans, and for us to have that. Because when they came to the offices, they inspired so much hope, to Kenyans who had given up on some of these institutions. They seem to have been doing something right, and in that regard, we thought, you know what, the justice system has gotten some bit of a boost. But when you hear, things like this playing out, especially in the media, will this affect Kenyans' confidence in our overall judicial, justice system? And judiciary is another matter, all the same, but our justice system.
Mm-hmm. Miriam, I suspect the cartels could have succeeded in putting a knife on that which held these two individuals together, and that is why you see people were not very happy, especially the criminals were not very happy, or they were not excited that the DPP and the DCI are working. Of course, they're working hand in hand, and they're in good terms in as far as making sure that these activities are carried out expeditiously. And maybe they've been hatching a scheme to make sure that these two are not going to continue working together. As Kenyans, we are not asking them to love one another. It does not matter. What is important is that they need to work together as a matter of principle, understanding that they got into those offices to provide services for the people of Kenya. Their differences notwithstanding, they have to make sure that by the end of the day, they work. Because again, we cannot allow the personal differences to come and compromise service delivery for the people of Kenya. If that is the case, they have to put that aside and make sure that they prioritize the call of duty, that the office of the DCI can carry out the investigation, they can do their part and furnish in time the same file to the office of the DPP for them to take the next step. Any of the parties that is trying to compromise that, of course, chain, then I think they are likely to be blamed by Kenyans. And I do not think that they really need to continue serving in those offices. We need to see them have a change of heart. We need to see them work together as they have always done. We want to see them come out and even address the members of the media, address the people of Kenya when they are standing alongside each other like they have done in the past. That way, Miriam, like you have said, they will, of course, revive that inspiration and hope that Kenyans had in as far as the justice system is concerned, that at least we have gotten individuals or officers that can work together simultaneously to achieve the noble goal collectively. But again, when we see things going the way they are going, we are not inspired at all. We feel like there's something wrong. And if there's something wrong, and we can only but work to rectify that which has made these individuals or officers not work together, that unlike they are supposed to be working together, Miriam. I submit.
Okay, thank you. Sharon, as we conclude, these two, offices, when both of them came into the office, they seems to have been working very well for the interest of the public, but that seems to have changed in the recent past. And Tawish is suggesting that perhaps some elements might have infiltrated the good working relations there. But for the good of the public, these acrimonious disagreements that we see play out in public, does it affect Kenyans' confidence in these institutions?
Thank you very much, Miriam, and of course to Tawish sentiments, and I largely, agree with what he has said. Like I mentioned earlier, the trouble in these offices could be as a result of sabotage from what Tawish has alluded to as cartels. So it's, for me, it will be a challenge, to the DPP and DCI to put their house in order and work together, in a concerted effort to make sure they do not compromise on service delivery. Remember, justice delayed is justice denied. So it's a call to action that they need to put their house in order and let their personal differences should, be none of our business. But for the sake of, efficient service delivery to the people, who are waiting, they should work together irregardless.
Okay. All right. And a quick one before we leave. I know we looked at the Daily Nation and the Star newspaper. On the Standard newspaper, of course, the main story is the how child killer strolled out of police cells and just up there on Mbagathi Road, soon to be renamed Raila Odinga Road. How do you feel about that, Samuel Tawish? Sharon?
Miriam, that will be a good thing. You're talking about Mbagathi Way being renamed after Raila Odinga. This is not something that is new. It has happened in the past. You have seen roads being renamed by virtue of the contribution that these individuals have made. Raila Odinga is a man who has had immense contribution to this country, especially when it comes to democratic space that we all enjoy today. And I think he's been participating and he's been part and parcel of the struggles really to liberate Kenya. And as we speak today, he's even in the same struggle to liberate us come the next year's general election, Miriam. So I think it is something that is well informed that this road should be named after Raila Odinga. I think Kenyans will not have an issue with that particular suggestion or proposal that Mbagathi Way should be replaced with Raila Odinga's name. That is a welcome move, Miriam.
Okay, but Mbagathi Road is Mbagathi Road. So Ngempatia Raila Odinga Expressway or something like, I don't know, I'm just joking though, but how do you feel about this, Sharon Gitonga?
Thank you very much, Miriam. And indeed, it's a good move, and it's largely welcome because Raila Odinga is one of the most underrated people who have really sacrificed a lot for this country and has been very resilient, including going into prison for something that he strongly believes in. So I think it's a good move, and I mean, in the spirit of legacy, let's have not just a road, but as you said, we can also have an expressway. It's going to go a long way.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Sharon Gitonga. Thank you, Samuel Tawish. This has been the extended version of Good Morning Africa. My name is Miriam Mugutu. Later on at 3 p.m., as I told you there earlier, Tanzania today are remembering 20 years on the death of their founding father, Mwalimu Julius Nyerere. Today is 22 years since he died, so we will have a special program at 3 p.m. and looking at the life and times and the influence perhaps Mwalimu Julius Nyerere had in Tanzania and perhaps in Africa, and his contribution to what we have today. Thank you so much for watching. We look forward to having you then. My name is Miriam Mugutu. Good morning.